Okay, thank you all for your patience. We shall start now on our special webinar. We don't do this webinar report a lot, which actually I think we should. And hopefully, this is actually our first webinar that's specifically catered to our Australian market. And we should do this more often because we have tons of data to share with all of you, especially for Australia, and Similarweb being one of the best and biggest data platforms available today in the world. Today, our topic for our webinar is competing for consumer in a cost of living crisis for the Australian market. And we'll do a deep dive into the Australian market. We will tell you about the consumer trends and proven strategies so that you can navigate in this cost of living crisis of 2023. Now, in this webinar, we want you to get the knowledge you need so that you can take up a strategy that your brand can stand out, adapt, and be successful in the face of adversity. In this webinar, which will be presented by my colleague Scott, you will learn which market sectors are stubbornly booming in spite of the cost of living crisis currently happening in Australia, and why certain bottom of funnel keywords are resulting in a massive 50% more traffic to e-commerce sites, and how you can take advantage of these keyword strategy, and which strategies in the beauty and cosmetic challenges brands are using to strategically differentiate themselves, and which are resulting in the biggest win. And in this webinar, of course, we will be taking questions from you. Please hold these questions until the presentation is over. I will address and moderate these questions to my colleague, Scott. I want to introduce to you my colleague, Scott. He has been here with Similarweb more than 5 years, coming to 6 years now, a very experienced sales manager for Australia and New Zealand market. Scott. Hey, Scott.
Hey, CK.
Good afternoon to you. So Scott is based in Sydney, and Scott, the floor is yours for this webinar.
Thank you so much. And good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for the time this afternoon. Appreciate it. So to briefly introduce Similarweb before we start, we measure and track the digital world. So using a series of different data sources, we're able to determine how many people go to different websites and how they get to those websites. The way we like to describe it is empowering you with insights to make better digital decisions. So all of the data points I present today are Similarweb's own estimates of website traffic and industry trends. Now, if e-commerce is a roller coaster, the COVID years were the ascent. And today's presentation, looking at data from the last 12 months, will sadly unpack the descent across a few industries. Over the past 12 months, Australian consumers have famously endured 12 interest rate rises, which has hurt. But due to the lag in how these increases filter through to homeowners, we've got things like fixed rate loans versus variable loans. It's only in the past 2 or 3 months that we're really starting to feel their impact, both for homeowners and for renters. Now, with inflation at record high levels, we wanted to explore what the impact has been on Australian e-commerce traffic. So, with that in mind, our goal for today is to help you navigate the tighter spending environment and still come out on top. I'll be unpacking the digital strategies of retailers who are bucking the trend, and in the process, we'll leave you with some actionable insights you can use to attract more shoppers to your website as competition for clicks increases. So, firstly, let's set the scene, which unfortunately does require a little doom and gloom. You could say that cost of living is almost outweighing the benefits, but that would just be a joke. After measuring the traffic to Australia's 650 largest e-commerce stores in the first half of 2022, and comparing that to the first 6 months of this year, we immediately saw there was a 3% decline in average monthly visits. To put that into perspective, that equates to around 17 million fewer visits this year than last year. Not only were traffic numbers down, but we also saw a downward trend in a few other key metrics. In the first half of the year, bounce rates increased by nearly 1.5%. Within Similarweb, we define a bounce as when a potential customer leaves a site after only visiting one page. Pages per visit were down by more than 3%, and conversion rates fell by 7%. In isolation, these numbers might not indicate an immediate concern, except maybe the steep change in conversion rate. I think any CMO would be asking questions about that. But together, they can tell us a lot about Australian consumers. Firstly, we know they're browsing e-commerce sites less often than a year ago. Secondly, those who are still browsing are being way more judicious with their spending. With fewer shoppers converting less frequently, there's much greater competition among retailers to attract people to their websites. So, which traffic channels are the best performing according to the data? Here we've split acquisition sources into 7 different channels. On the pie chart, we can see the organic search, the big orange piece here, drives the highest proportion of traffic, followed by direct and paid. If we combine organic and paid search together, collectively they contribute almost 2/3 of all traffic to Australian e-commerce sites, indicating that search engines are clearly still an incredibly important part of the consumer journey, and any digital marketing strategy needs to prioritize spending and investment here. The bar chart on the right shows how traffic trends have shifted since the start of last year. Firstly, the fastest growing channel is social media. Although this channel only accounts for around 5.5% of all traffic, it increased 16% year over year, which is almost 3 times more than any other channel if you compare those percentage increases side by side. Paid search saw the second highest growth with a 6% increase, followed by direct traffic, which grew by 3%. Now, arguably, direct traffic is seeing an uptick here as a lot of people who weren't digital savvy pre-COVID found brands that they liked during the crisis and are now going directly there. Every other channel went backwards, with traffic from referrals or affiliates seeing the steepest decline, falling almost 9%. Now, there is a lot happening on this slide, so it can be a bit difficult to make sense of it all, but the key takeaway is this: consumers are interacting with paid search and social media in increasing numbers. As you plan your digital marketing spend for next quarter, or even this month, closely monitor investments in these channels. Given the clear increase, it is tempting to simply increase investments. However, knowing where to invest is only one side of the coin. The other is how to effectively invest in these channels. So as consumers are tightening their belts, they become more calculating in how they spend their money. In other words, they start hunting for bargains. That behavior is on full display within this slide. In the first half of the year, there was an almost 5% increase in Australians including sales, discount, or clearance within their search queries. This shows that deals are increasingly front of mind as shoppers look to get more bang for their buck. Going a step further, we analysed traffic to the sales and discount pages of Australia's major e-commerce brands and found 50% more traffic ended up on these pages in the first 6 months of this year compared to the same period last year. So that would be looking at this period here versus this period there. With this in mind, when your brand is planning a sales event this year, the data suggests it would be wise to double down on your ad spend ahead of the event with a key focus on these keywords. And as the previous slide showed, consider more focus on paid search and social media channels should the margins make sense from a CPC perspective or a CPM. So overall, that's the power of insight. It can uncover emerging consumer trends and help you stand out from the competition by knowing where consumers are interacting and what topics they're engaging with. But that's the high-level view of the e-commerce industry as a whole. What happens when we zoom in? Are there different trends playing out in different retail sectors? The short answer is yes. Here we can see that some sectors have remained resilient and are even growing traffic, while others are going backwards. The fastest growing sector was marketplaces, which the growth was driven predominantly by the arrival and very rapid expansion of the Chinese discount retailer Temu earlier this year. If you haven't been bombarded by Temu advertising or haven't heard of it at all, the brand only launched in March this year. So 12 months ago, it didn't exist. And by June this year, it was already attracting more monthly visitors than established players like Catch, MyDeal, and Target. And it's not that far behind category leaders like Kmart and Big W. Now, their traffic acquisition strategy is very aggressively focused on paid media as they try to influence consumers to consider their very, very cheap pricing for their products. Some other notable results here are the declines in consumer electronics, as well as furniture and homeware, and pharmacy and medical supplies. Now, these declines appear to coincide more with a normalization now that the COVID era need for home office equipment and furniture, along with masks and hand sanitizers, have largely disappeared. But from here, we can zoom in even further As much as I'd love to cover all of these categories, I do have a time limit to work with, so I'll focus on 3. We'll cover fashion and apparel, consumer electronics, and beauty and cosmetics. If we aren't covering your sector specifically, or you want to deep dive into your exact competitor set, do get in touch with me directly after the session. Now, we've chosen fashion because it is typically the most resilient category, and this is the first decline we've seen in this space for some time. We chose consumer electronics because it witnessed the steepest decline, and cosmetics because if you haven't heard of the lipstick effect, you'll soon know all about it. So, let's start with fashion and apparel. The biggest story in the fashion and apparel sector is the ongoing battle between The Iconic and Shein. For years, The Iconic had, I guess, a seemingly unassailable lead as the biggest player in the category. However, as we can see here, Shein has almost caught up off the back of an incredible 37% year-over-year growth rate. As economic pressure is increasing, this would seemingly benefit someone like Shein, as they're famous for their impossibly cheap prices. Sticking to the leaders table on the left, we can also see what appears to be, I guess, a re-emerging fitness and home workout trend with increases for Rebel Sport, JD Sport, and Foot Locker. Despite this trend that we're seeing, Nike actually saw an 11% decline in traffic. But keep this in mind for later because it will come up again in a few slides. On the challenges table on the right, it's clear that women's fashion is driving the 3 fastest growing fashion brands, with Dish, Saint Frock, and Susan all posting impressive growth figures. These 3 brands are all dedicated to women's fashion with a particular focus on more formal style clothing and accessories. Now, this is likely correlated with a return to the office, as well as being able to enjoy an in-person social life again, rather than the dreaded Zoom meeting with friends to do trivia or something. So in a sector where the overall trend was one of decline, how did these challenger brands that we're reporting on the right here post such impressive growth rates? Remember how earlier I said the overall traffic trend appeared to support a strategy of investing in paid search and social media? Well, that's exactly what the challenger brands in this space have done. Here we have traffic acquisition sources for the category average in gray and for the challenger brands in blue. The only 2 sources in which the challengers outperformed the category average was in paid search and social, 2 channels that I guess can be won by any brand with the right budget and the right strategy. These challenger brands recognize the importance of using these channels to reach their target market effectively. They're strategically allocating resources to maximize their presence and engagement within these channels, seeking to outperform competitors and gain a competitive advantage. Given they're coming off a smaller base and lower market share, these are those channels that they can potentially get that additional share by increasing investment. In fact, we saw that year over year, they increased their PPC investment by 88% compared to the industry average of just 47%. So obviously, a lot of budgets being signed off there. So that's the trend in how brands are acquiring their traffic, but what are the trends in what consumers are actually searching for within this category? Now, remember before I was talking about Nike.com's decline in traffic? This is why I mentioned it, because 4 of the 15 most popular product searches were for Nike products. 3 of these were even branded searches like Nike shoes, Nike Dunks, and Nike Air Force One. But not only that, 3 of the fastest growing emerging searches were also for Nike products, including the fastest growing, which was for LeBron 20. This is a LeBron James signature shoe. For those of you who aren't familiar with the basketballer, he released the shoes late last year and then some new colors for his fans earlier this year. With so much interest in Nike products, how is it that Nike actually went backwards? So what we think is that their retail partners, Rebel Sport, JD Sport, and Foot Locker, are actually outperforming them with more aggressive pricing strategies and highly targeted keywords aimed to capture the buzz. If you yourself are selling through retailers whilst also running a D2C store, it's really important to monitor this sort of information to ensure that your strategy is working and retailers aren't cannibalizing D2C sales. Something else to point out here is how much interest there is in sneakers and athletic shoes overall. New Balance in particular seems to be trending, with one of their models featuring in the most popular search list and 2 in the fastest growing. Additionally, performance running shoes like Asics and Hoka are also in that fastest growing search list. If we link this back to the cost of living pressures, the assumption is that people are canceling gym memberships in favor of road running, which I guess is free once you've got the right pair of shoes from the internet. Further, traffic to top gym websites has been trending downwards, with visits in August this year their lowest since October 2021, which was the famous Freedom Day. And I guess lots of people wanted to get back to the gym. So take my word for it for now while we dive into consumer electronics. Of all the retail categories we analyzed, the consumer electronics sector saw the largest traffic decline. It was about 10% year over year. So that means competition for clicks in this space is higher than it has ever been over the last 4 years. There are a few key things to note on this slide. The first is just the sheer dominance of JB Hi-Fi within this space. They capture more than 21% of the market, which I guess for anyone in the industry, that's what I would be aiming for. The second is that all the category leaders, with the exception of Bingly, experienced year-over-year traffic declines of between 3 and 38%. I will flag that Bingly's growth was only 1%, so they very narrowly avoided joining the rest of the cohort. The third and perhaps most interesting insight on this slide is clear when looking at the fastest growing consumer electronics players. Leading this challenger category is a website called rebelow.com.au, a brand which completely bucked the trend and increased its traffic by an incredible 67%, as you can see over here. To understand why, we need to analyze what Rebelow offers. The site specializes in refurbished smartphones, laptops, tablets, and other electronics. These recycled products are sold at a significant discount to what you'd expect to pay for a brand new version of the same item. For example, an iPhone 12 typically retails at around $1,050. Refurbished versions of the same phone are available on Rebelow from just $609. So quite a substantial savings, especially for someone who is a little bit tighter now than they were 12 months ago. As consumers increasingly look to stretch their money further, this is an incredibly appealing alternative to purchasing brand new. Additionally, more people are becoming conscious of their carbon footprint, and recycling old phones is very on brand with the environmentally conscious in 2023. If you want to, you can take your old phone and you can recycle them at any local phone retailer. Please do so. But having a cheaper option is only one part of the battle. The other is letting potential customers know you have it. So how is Rebelow generating all of this growth? Rebelow, along with its challenger brand competitors, invested across every acquisition channel, but they really doubled down on paid media, particularly display, paid search, and social. In fact, the only 2 channels where they underperformed against the category average was in organic search. This is to be expected, especially in a category like consumer electronics, because the more established brands have much more authority within the search engine. And the other channel was referrals, where they also underperformed. We wanted to get a deeper insight into when these investments were being made, so we tracked the traffic generated by paid search and social media each month. What we saw was that the challenger brands really ramped their investment in May and June, coinciding with those end of financial year sales, which led them to outperform the rest of the industry in traffic growth during that sales event. Rebelow in particular has a heavy presence in Google Shopping, which the ads that appear above sponsored and organic hits. They also benefit from including images with a cost attach, which for their purpose clearly shows a much cheaper option for a very similar item. If anything, it might just pique curiosity and people will just wonder, what is this, and help build more brand awareness for them and their mission. When looking at search topic trends, the searches that don't appear in the top of this list tell us as much about consumer behavior as what does. First, it's clear that Australians can't get enough of Apple products. Apple Watch, MacBook Pro, MacBook Air, and AirPods all appear in the top 5 electronic searches. Previously, this list was dominated by home office related products like mouse, laptop stand, and monitor, which this year barely made a rate to mention. This tells us that those who do need to work from home have their spaces set up, and employers are increasingly bringing their workforce back into the office, so it's unlikely these products will ever generate the same traffic and buzz that they did 18 months ago. The trend can also be seen when looking at the fastest growing searches, where we're seeing more gaming and entertainment related searches like Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, Hogwarts Legacy, and high-end graphics cards gaining pace. Now, what this suggests is that people are trying to reclaim their homes as spacious for leisure and not just work. Plus, as the price of everything increases, the hours of entertainment you can get from gaming offers a lot of bang for your buck. Now, let's move on to beauty and cosmetics. There's something unique about beauty and cosmetics, and it's that the industry leader for this brand actually managed to grow their traffic year over year. Not only did Mecca increase its visits, it did so by an impressive 18%. In the previous 2 industries, fashion and consumer electronics, the category leaders both experienced traffic declines. So what is it about cosmetics that sets it apart? what we could be seeing here, as I mentioned before, is what's known as the lipstick effect. This is an economic theory that during tough economic times, consumers tend to scale back their purchases of things like designer clothing and other luxury items and will instead buy expensive cosmetics like high-end lipstick. The other trend we see playing out here is the Australian love of Asian beauty products. We first started seeing this trend emerge about 2 years ago with the rapid uptake of J and K beauty products, which stand for Japan and Korea, respectively. This style of cosmetics aims to achieve a flawless skin through the use of various serums and moisturizers rather than covering up blemishes with makeup. The aim overall is to achieve what is essentially a no makeup look with a variety of natural products. Now, from here, the four fastest brands in this category do cater to that trend. Now, when it comes to how the challenges that we've noted before are boosting their traffic, which in the case of Beauty Amora, if I just go back one slide, never mind, it's by more than 2,000%. So again, the beauty industry is again unique. The challenges are investing heavily in referrals, particularly through cashback sites like Cash Rewards and Shopback, as well as coupons and offer sites like OzBargain. These are essentially membership-driven loyalty programs where shoppers receive cash rewards for shopping the deals advertised on the platform. On a side note, OzBargain isn't just big for this industry, it's a core player in most online industries within Australia and should be considered as a part of your strategy. It attracts nearly 30 million visitors per month on average and refers about 10 million visits per month to other domains. This increases to nearly 13 million during November, so that Black Friday, Cyber Monday period. So if you are planning that still now, OzBargain could be a good look. Granted, it's not a brand fit for everyone, but most brands can potentially find their voice in the channel. So, while the lipstick effect might be seeing Australian consumers search for high-quality cosmetics, they're still looking to get the best deal possible when making those purchases. Whether it's sneakers, smartphones, or serums you're buying online, there's one part of the consumer journey that cuts across them all. And that is how you pay for your products at the checkout. Between this presentation today and our previous decks that we've done is the performance of Buy Now, Pay Later. A lot has changed within the Australian market during the last 12 months. After years of incredible growth, Buy Now, Pay Later is slowing down. Not only has the traffic to sign-up pages of major providers declined by more than 50%, the amount of referral traffic to merchant websites has also fallen more than 25%. This appears to suggest that there is a ceiling to the number of Australian users Buy Now, Pay Later providers can sign up, and that ceiling has potentially been reached, and also that it's falling out of favor as a payment method. The decline in referral traffic could also coincide with large numbers of users reaching their spending limits. Alternatively, it could also mean shoppers are making harder decisions on what they should and shouldn't be paying off over 4 installments. With Buy Now, Pay Later traditionally used for non-essential discretionary items, the decline makes sense against a backdrop of tough economic conditions. But the story is very different for Australia's credit card providers. So as we transition to the next slide, you'll see a sea of green. And that tells you all you need to know about the consumer trend around credit cards. As more Australians look for ways to make ends meet, they are increasingly seeking out credit cards as a solution. Average monthly traffic to this segment of Australia's major bank and non-bank lenders increased more than a third in the first half of this year. While the big 4 banks dominate the credit card market at the top here, every single provider that we tracked saw their traffic increase, most notably Suncorp, which increased by more than 180% year over year. Our assumption here is that credit cards are better suited to paying for essential items like food, fuel, and rent, which is why there has been such an uptick in traffic and a decline for things like Buy Now, Pay Later. Until interest rates and inflation ease, we expect this trend to continue. So make sure your credit card checkout is as smooth as possible. As you refine your digital marketing strategies for the year, the key takeaways I'd leave you with are these. With fewer shoppers converting less frequently, every click counts. It's critical that your digital and merchandising decisions are driven by data. The same economic pressures that are putting the squeeze on consumers are impacting brands and marketing budgets, so invest strategically. We've seen how paid search, particularly Google shopping ads, and social media advertisements are striking a chord with consumers. If these 2 channels aren't core to your marketing mix, they should be considered. I would say if they already are, focus on improving efficiency by targeting traffic-driving keywords, for example, and have your creatives match consumer sentiments. You'll find in your Google Search Console or any SEO tool, that they'll only provide search volume for keywords, which tells you how many people search for something, but not how many clicks they generate. So this is where search traffic, which is what we've discussed today, is essential to ensure that your PPC strategy is a winner and you're targeting the best keywords. Finally, shoppers are hunting for bargains. If you have any sales events coming up, people need to know about it. Double down on your spend around these sales events so you can reach the greatest audience possible and get your offers out early, especially for Black Friday. Every year we've tracked Black Friday, customers are researching deals way earlier, even up to 7 days beforehand. Include these in your content and search strategy ASAP, I guess. And that's it. So thank you for your time, everybody, this afternoon. If you want a copy of the deck, you can scan the QR code now to download it. But otherwise, we've got some time for some questions, I think, CK, if there are any.
Yeah, we have quite a lot of questions coming in, Scott. I'll pick 3 of the most interesting that I can share. Thank you again, Scott, for this presentation. And we already have already put up the report for you to download. You can download at this landing page for free. Just leave your details and you will be able to get this report for free, which our team has put together. Shout out to Mir, who is one of our CS team member colleague who put together this comprehensive report for us. And we hope to do more of these reports and tell us what is the industry you want us to deep dive into, and we could do this again. So I'm going to the question, Scott. There's quite a bit of questions coming in. The first one was if you can go back to the Nike slide. This question is regarding Nike.com. And this listener, this viewers of ours is interested in, and he asks, if searches for Nike products are so high, then how can it be that Nike.com traffic is performing badly? So I guess this is a question of the searches is high, but the traffic coming into Nike.com is low. What do you think happened there? Or is there something that we can share with our listener or viewers?
Yeah, for sure. Just one flag, CK, the QR code isn't working. Just a couple of people. But in terms of the question you asked, so I think there'd be a couple of things. What we flagged today was obviously those searches not going to Nike.com and rather to their retailers. So their retailers are getting more aggressive in, I guess, their organic rankings as well as their investment in the keywords around Nike searches. There'd be a lot more at play as well in terms of what would be driving Nike traffic's decline. It wouldn't be as simple as less searches going to them. It would be a combination of things. They might be seeing softer environment in terms of direct visitors, or maybe they've reduced their spend overall in terms of paid search and prioritizing other channels to try and drive that growth, which maybe it hasn't performed, or maybe they weren't seeing enough of a return from paid search. They've reduced traffic from that channel, and as a result, they're seeing less traffic, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're seeing less conversions on their site.
Thank you. Sorry about the QR code not working. I did test it out, but it's not working. But I have sent everyone the link for the report to be downloaded on the webinar chat, so you can go there. Thanks for that insights on Nike.com. Second question is regarding the pharmacy section that is not really performing. When Scott, you showed the difference industry performance, it looked like the pharmacy had performed particularly the worst. What's behind the steep decline there, Scott?
So off the top of my head, it would be a number of things. I think just when it comes to pharmacies, people tend to like to go in store. There's also, I guess, an increase in competition in some respects digitally who don't necessarily sit within that pharmacy space. So Woolworths and Coles, for example, who sell vitamins, we've probably seen an uptick in people going to them to buy those sorts of products that pharmacies tend to buy. Additionally, there's just like people, personally, I like to go in store to a pharmacist and ask for advice from them rather than digitally. So it seems like maybe more people are happy to get out and go and see them. And I guess there's less demand for some of those products that we've seen over the last 2 years, like COVID tests and face masks and things like that. So pharmacies haven't benefited digitally as a result.
Right. Okay. The last question, it's about consumer electronics that we also presented. how can consumer electronics player compete against a platform like Rebello? That's the question.
Yeah, it's a hard one, I guess, because Rebello is offering a very unique product compared to market. The main suggestion would be to understand how viable it would be to potentially offer something similar to compete, because I guess it's a different value prop. So Rebello is a refurbished phone rather than a brand new phone, so it is a harder one to compete with. What we'd recommend is just tracking the keywords or the ways that they're getting traffic via Similarweb. Have a look at what search terms they're performing really well for, and just track that that's not eating into the market share for your brand, who might be selling brand new phones or brand new laptops or whatever it might be.
Cool. Have we got one more? It's about buy now, pay later.
Sure.
The question, Scott, is buy now, pay later was offered for more essential items. How do you think that would impact the sector's performance? Could it make gains against credit cards again?
I think there's already been a trend with businesses offering buy now, pay later for things like if you go in store and buy certain items that you can check out with Afterpay or ZipPay or whatever it is. So I think that's already there. And the fact that the trend is still declining against credit cards just kind of shows that it's falling out of favor as a payment option for those sorts of things. It's not going away overnight by any means, but it definitely seems like it would struggle to catch up to credit cards.
Yeah. So that's all the question we have for today. Don't worry about that you won't able to download the report. We will send out an email on the landing page for this report. And also you can reach out to Scott if you would like on LinkedIn. Scott is on LinkedIn, and he's able to share more insights with you if needed, and of course more answer if you need questions on that. On that note, thank you for joining this special webinar. We hope to have more, and we hope to listen to your feedback. You can reach me at CKT at LinkedIn, and also Scott Roger Jones at LinkedIn as well. Thank you for joining this webinar, and we hope you have a great day and a great week ahead. Thank you. Thank you, Scott.
Thanks, everybody. No worries.
Bye.
Thanks so much. Bye.